Welcome back to the Effort of Everything podcast. I'm your host, Jason Khalipa. On today's episode, Gabe, Yanez, and I, we're back on the mic. We're talking about programming in our gyms. I talked about one of my favorite workouts from this last week. Talk about a new nutrition accountability program we're launching here at NCFIT. Gym owners, you're going to want to hear about this. Stay up to date on this. Athletes, we talk about programming. We talk about New Year's resolutions, our insight on them. Gabe drops some knowledge on this idea using a rubber band. And we just generally riff and have an amazing episode. If you're getting value from these, simple ask. Tell a friend about it, leave us a rating, leave us a review, hit us up on social, let us know what you're looking for, and hope everybody's having a kick-ass week. Let's dive into a great episode. Let's go. So it's called Car Jitsu, and someone hit me up about that on Instagram, and I just looked it up for the first time right before we're recording, and this is crazy, man. They start some rounds with their seatbelts on. They start some rounds with their seatbelt off, but they're in a car. They're doing jiu-jitsu. It's like a sanctioned thing. It's called Car Jitsu Championships, and they can use the seatbelt to choke each other. They're in like a gi pant with like regular sweatshirt. But anyways, for anybody who wants a little bit of entertainment, look up Car Jitsu. It's pretty wild.
There's something... all sorts of crazy things out on the internet, man.
It seems like how do you come up with that, Gabe? How do you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to start a league?
You're asking me?
No, I'm just asking. Like, how do you come up with, I'm going to start a league? And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start up where you do jujitsu in a car. And we're going to make it a sanctioned event. And there's going to be multiple rounds where you start off with the seatbelt on and then off. Anyways, I just thought that was funny.
You know, like things that sound crazy to us might not sound crazy to other people. You know, if you went back, whatever it was, 15, 20 years ago, and told people that, you know, there was going to be a sport where people, you know, saw how quickly they could exercise, people would look at you and be like, that's weird. Like there's going to be competitive exercising. That's strange. And now, you know, you have the CrossFit Games. It's a huge thing. It's interesting how some ideas, when they're just ideas, you know, they're like, well, this is weird. How could this ever be a thing? I'm not equating Car Jitsu to the CrossFit Games. I'm just saying there's definitely people that think anything is weird. And there's people that would think anything is like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I would watch it or want to participate in it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember years and years ago, this is like back in early CrossFit days. Someone, I don't know if it was me or no, it was someone else, had referred to the CrossFit Games in terms of like, oh, those are our workouts. And I remember Dave specifically saying like, hey guys, in like a super like positive way, like, hey, let's not refer to them as workouts. Let's refer to them as events, and really trying to kind of take it away from like, hey, this is a workout, to like, this is an event where you're competing against other people and you're looking to win and there's strategy involved, et cetera. So anyways, that just sticks out at me with one conversation I had with him years and years ago, was trying to kind of create that separation between, oh, these are workouts, but this is exercise. And, you know, there was someone else years ago saying like, oh, you know, we get paid to exercise fast. And I think that kind of undermined the value of the sport. And so Dave was always about this idea of like their events, which I think is true in that case.
Yeah. And I get what he's trying to do there. And I think it's important. And I think if anything, you know, I don't think CrossFit has done a good enough job. And again, it's a very difficult thing to do, because I think it's been a blessing and a curse how aspirational the sport element of it has been to draw people into the training methodology and going to these gyms, which has changed a lot of people's lives for the better. But I think that, you know, especially now we're at a point where there does need to be a separation, because, you know, I was listening to the intro with MDV, obviously our other NCFIT podcast, which you guys check out if you don't already. And yesterday they were talking about, you know, this idea that once every single time you come in to train, it becomes a competition, because, you know, most people aren't going to go to the CrossFit Games, right? So for a lot of people, their CrossFit Games is throwing down with all their friends and buddies at the 7 p.m. class. Like that to them is their event, because there's that competitive aspect. There's like a little bit of shit talking, like you want to climb the leaderboard. But the problem then is when you look at the athletes that are actually training for the games, you know, the perfect example is they're training by doing a lot of strict pull-ups, L-sit pull-ups, like they're working on the basics and their strength. And then when they go out and compete, they're doing butterfly pull-ups and whatever's going to get them the best score. The problem is when the average person doesn't have that one event that they're training for, and every day of training becomes their competition, then you get those people that now it's once they learn how to do butterfly pull-ups, that's the only thing they do.
Yeah.
And the only thing they're doing is to try and get the best score that day. And I think that that's where a lot of people, especially people that have been training for a while, kind of fall into this trap of never going back to the basics, never doing a workout for quality, never doing, you know, how can I challenge my pull-ups in a way that isn't just what's the biggest unbroken set I can do here, but can I do it in an L sit? Can I do them strict? Can I do them with a tempo? Can I go wider grip and use my lats a little bit more than my biceps, right? Like those are all ways to use that one movement to challenge and see progressive overload and get stronger and build a little bit of muscle. But if you become so tunnel visioned on, hey, there's 25 every round in this workout, like what crazy kit and crazy grip can I use and make sure I get the spiel bar to make sure I can do the biggest set unbroken, I feel like you're missing the forest for the trees a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, if you think about, for years, I would finish off my training day with a 10-minute EMOM of 10 strict chest to bar pull-ups. That was like always my go-to because I wanted to develop the capacity in the lower lat and in that pulling position. My whole theory was, and even today, right? I do kipping pull-ups and strict pull-ups a lot in workouts. Can I do butterfly? Of course I can do butterfly, but I save those unless I'm like really competing. It's a really valid, interesting point. You know, like I was doing a workout the other day in class and I started doing kipping pull-ups. I think someone looked at me like, why are you doing kipping pull-ups? And I was like, dude, I wanted to work that position. I wanted to do something different. And so that's definitely a valid point. I think if you are trying to compete at the highest level in CrossFit, you are testing yourself to get you overall fit, regardless of what the clock says. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, if you know that you have a deficiency in strict pull-ups, you should be working those things because it's going to work you in a different way than if you're really good at butterfly, you should stop working those as much and start working something different because it's going to help you when you go compete. I mean, no one who's ever done strict chest to bar pull-up if you work strict chest to bar pull-up, you'll be able to butterfly, like for sure. But if you only butterfly and strict pull-ups come up, or something that's a little bit more lat engagement, like maybe like bar muscle ups at high reps or something like that, I think you could have gotten more benefit from a strict pull-up than just butterflying all the time. Now there is technique involved in the butterfly and obviously you need to work that, but once you get it, you get it.
Sure. Yeah. Once you get it, you have to like do minimal work to maintain that skill, but you can really build the foundation to make your pull-ups better by doing other forms of pull-ups, not just the one thing that, you know, gets you the biggest number of, you know, times where your chin is over the bar, which is, you know, what a lot of people focus on.
Yeah, we just ordered in for the gym a pocket bar, which I had never seen before, and it has we'll see how the gym likes it, but it has a knurl on it, and I got it because I wanted to provide the members an option and myself selfishly an option to do strict pull-ups with a knurl, and it might suck, or it might be great, but I got these like white and gray camo new bars in. So
loves the camo,
dude.
Loves the camo.
Bro, that and my American
look
flag
badass.
bar.
It's gonna look badass.
It's gonna look sick. I did a workout yesterday with Caden. Dude, this one put me in the ground. So you guys might want to try this one. 15, 12, 9, deadlift at 155, burpee over the bar. 15, 12, 9. Doesn't sound that bad. Then you rest 90 seconds. Originally it was 90 seconds. Repeat 3 times. Dude.
If you've been doing this long enough, you know that sounds bad.
So Caden and we hit round 1 and he hit it pretty hard, man. Like he's getting to the point now where he's like a training partner. So it's pretty cool. Dude, so he was using 55 pounds or 65 pounds and I was using 155, but man, 15, 12, 9. And so I finished it in 3 minutes and I look at the clock and after 90 seconds of rest, I'm like, dude, this is not enough rest. Like I'm not recovered at all. So we actually changed the rest to 2 minutes. So if you see that workout coming out here at NCFIT in the future, that's one of the benefits of testing is that, you know, it just wasn't enough rest. So we had to make that adjustment so that people could provide the intensity they were looking for on the workout. Man,
I can't wait for Shay to be my training partner. Right now, he's at a month old and still trying to keep his head up, but we'll get there. He's working on his tummy time.
Yeah, man, it's going to take a little bit. It'll probably take at least 8 years, but it'll get there. Speaking of which of the rest, I just want to kind of share something. So this morning, I'm training Ava and I had to do a 3-minute on, 1 minute off of 3 burpees, 5 the slam ball, and 7 air squats. So she does 3 minutes, and she doesn't look like that exhausted or anything. She rests a minute. She does that 3 times. And before the 3rd round, she asked me, she's like, so what are we doing after this? I'm like, this is what we're doing today. It's 9 minutes of really great work. She goes, but why am I resting? She goes, why am I resting? I don't need to rest. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me, because she said something in particular I actually wrote down. She said, how am I supposed to know that? And because I had said to her, hey, it's gonna be 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. We're gonna go, we're gonna rest, we're gonna rest. And so after the 2nd round, she's like, hey, why do I need the rest? I said, well, the goal is to go really hard during that 3 minutes so your body can recover, and then you can bring the next 3 minutes with a high intensity. And she's like, well, how was I supposed to know that? And I thought that was interesting, because like I always like assume that when you put a workout with workout and rest, people just know like, hey, I'm gonna go really hard, I'm gonna rest. But I think it wasn't automatically implied here. So it was something that I was just thinking about that we should share on this show, is like when we are working with members or working with ourselves, like we might need to express to them like, hey, we're gonna go 3 minutes on. I want you to put in your best effort, because you get a whole minute to rest. I should have done that this morning, and that was kind of a pitfall of mine. So I wanted to share that here.
But I think another part of that, and like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm assuming that it takes a lot more, or Ava probably doesn't like gravitate towards, or is even able to hit intensity like the way Caden is. And I think that is usually pretty common difference that I've noticed. And then I'm pretty sure this is like reinforced by like the biology of like women and men differently. Like, men have a little bit easier time, going full, foot on the gas pedal. Women tend to be a little bit more reserved with their training. And I think that goes to show 2 things that I think are important that we're doing. One is having RPE for our workouts, which, is super useful, because once you educate your members on, hey, we have rest periods today, so we want to make sure we're hitting RPE 9, RPE 10, RPE 8, versus this is 9 minutes of straight work, so you're going to want to be in like RPE 6, RPE 7. But, to your point, this is another thing that I think comes up a lot with people coming in and trying a trial workout. And, if someone is inexperienced with this kind of training, if someone doesn't have the technique to be able to hit intensity, and they come in a day where, there's these big rest periods and it's not a whole bunch of work, we've had this happen at our gym a lot. Their first experience is like, well, I don't feel like I got much of a workout, because if people go to Barry's boot camp or go to Orange Theory or go to all these other places, regardless of how untrained you are, regardless of the workout, you're going to leave really sweaty and feel like you got, quote unquote, a killer workout. So how do you mitigate that? How do you get in front of that when you have a model like ours where, people are coming in and their first class could be any workout?
Yeah, that was something that we've been trying to find a solution to for years. If you look at like a 2 or 3 minute workout, like for a beginner, that's a terrible workout, because they don't have the mental capacity to push themselves yet to get to a point where they feel like there's any constructive fitness going on, especially if their preconceived notion is that more is better. So I think that obviously as a coach, you got to adjust. That's also why our programming doesn't really fall below 10 minutes very often, because even at 10 minutes, I wonder if my power just went out again. Even at 10 minutes, right? You can get in a pretty good push.
Yeah, just trying to get in front of people coming in, taking a class, and it potentially being something that requires them to hit an RPE 8 or above, and them not necessarily having like the skills or just even the mindset, right, to like go there. And then, they're done 10, 15 minutes later, had a bunch of rest, probably didn't get that sweaty, and feel like, well, why do I want to join this gym? I took an hour class. I don't feel like I got a good workout.
Yeah, I think that's one of the pitfalls or hurdles of your traditional CrossFit model, is that if you do have a beginner who comes there and they have a subpar experience because maybe they identify a good workout as like 60 minutes of sweating, whereas in CrossFit it's traditionally like a good warm up, it's a nice strength piece potentially, and then a workout. And I think that's kind of like the bridge we've been trying to create here at NCFIT, is like if you have old school where maybe it was like you come in and you just do a 5x1 back squat, right? And that's it. That's the priority for the day. You're going to really be focused on it. And then new schools like this, let's just call it Orange Theory. I think we try and bridge the gap in between, where people are going to be moving the entire hour. They're going to get in great fitness. and they're going to hit in at minimum a 10-minute workout to finish it off. I think that kind of bridges the gap well.
And I think that if you're an experienced coach, you've done your due diligence, you've checked the session plan, you understand the stimulus, and what all gym owners should have in place, which is a system so that the coach isn't completely blindsided that, hey, Jason's coming in to try class today and he's a new member, doesn't have a ton of experience. Like, I should have all that information going in. A good coach should be able to say, okay, I know that today we're doing, these 2-minute intervals with 2 minute rests. I know that Jason's not going to potentially get the most. I'm going to go up to him and be like, hey, let's do 3 minutes of work with 1 minute rest. Let's make everything a little bit lighter. Like, I should be able to adjust that workout to make sure that this new member is getting a good experience, given the information that I have and the preparation that I did going into it. I think where a lot of people really run into trouble is because they don't have a system in place. So the coach just, he's about to start class and he's like, wow, I have someone here that hasn't been before. He hasn't gotten information from whoever talked to that lead about what's their experience like. Have they been doing Orange Theory 5 times a week before coming in? Or are they someone that hasn't been moving at all for the past 5 months? That gives me valuable experience on how to adjust a workout. And then the last piece, have they looked at a session plan like what we provide with the collective? And I know exactly the stimulus we're trying to hit with the performance version, with the fitness version, and how I can adjust accordingly in case that happens. With all those pieces in place, I think you can still knock it out of the park and give that person a really good experience. I think where a lot of people fall flat is because they don't do the due diligence and preparation to get there.
Yeah, and then obviously having to care, right? You got to care about this person's first experience and give them something that you think will help them come back is the goal. I think about it a lot in Jiu Jitsu. It's the same thing, is that in Jiu Jitsu, you go through technique work, and then for athletes that don't spar, it could kind of feel lackluster because you don't really sweat, you don't do much, you just work on technique. And if that's what you're there for, it's fine. Or if you go for sparring and it goes to 0 to 100, or you don't know how to ramp up intensity, it could be a poor experience too. So being a coach in jiu-jitsu, I think, is the same thing. We got to kind of put your beginner athletes in a position where they're going to be successful so they can come back, right? And that's the same thing for us at our gyms, is like, how do you make their experience good where they feel like they get in a great workout, but can still walk the next day? But enough of a workout where they don't feel like they just went for 3 minutes and they're done. So it's kind of like this blend, right? That's the art of the coach. I mean,
right.
That's it. Tomorrow I head to Wadapalooza.
Miami.
Yeah. Dude, those flights are gnarly. They're long. It's 6.5 hours on the way home. I feel like I'm going to New York. So I'm going to be doing a couple different things out there. It's going to be really exciting. I'll talk about it on the show in the future. For now, we got some gym owner meetups, which are going to be fun. I'll be hosting some workouts. I think I'll be hosting some volunteer workouts too, just to kind of take the volunteers through something, and then commentating a little bit. So for those people that are watching Wadapalooza, or if you're going, you probably saw me there because this episode will probably release after I was already there.
Yeah, you definitely saw him because the guy's going to be everywhere. Another benefit of living in Texas, man, it's been so nice since moving out here because, I'll go to the East Coast, I'll go to the West Coast for work, and, it's like a 3-hour flight everywhere. Because I remember, dude, the coast to coast flights when I was in California and I'd go to visit my family in New York. It's a long flight, man. It's a long flight. And if you're doing it often, yeah, it's tough. It's nice to be centrally located.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously you guys have that benefit. The only benefit we really have is we can get to, we can fly within California, obviously really easy, and we can get to Hawaii quicker. But aside from that, yeah, we're kind of out here in the coast. Dude, one of the things that we've been implementing lately, actually, we just launched the Sheepdog response course. So I want to talk about that. I thought that was a cool.
Hell yeah.
A while ago, we were talking about this on the podcast. I went out to Texas and I filmed some content with Tim Kennedy, who's, basically a jack of all trades, UFC fighter, you name it. He has a huge, long list of accolades. And we created a course together that just recently released this last week. So if you're someone out there who's looking for an 8-week ebook, if you're looking for, kind of something to kind of jumpstart you, maybe you're not in a gym yet, maybe you're just getting acclimated to some of these movements, I think that ebook is incredible. You can see it on Sheepdog Response, where you can go find it at.
Yeah, and I think that if you've watched any of the videos that have come out promoting the course or any of like Tim Kennedy's content, there's a lot of like tactical stuff. He's doing BJJ, he's doing a lot of stuff with weapons and stuff, but, kind of taking a step back from this just to make sure that people know what this product is and why I think it can benefit more than just people that are interested in that specifically. The entire idea, the kind of spirit behind what we were trying to do with this ebook and this virtual course is to give people a baseline of functional capacity for the things that they should be able to do in life, right? And Tim Kennedy, with his company Sheepdog Response, we've talked about that course. He's very big into, being able to be a protector and being able to be, whether it's law enforcement or just a protector for your family. So, what are you going to do when shit hits the fan and you potentially, are in a situation where, you don't want your fitness to limit how you can respond? That's kind of who this is for. But with that said, I think it's a perfect baseline of fitness where, if you, for whatever reason, have found yourself not being super consistent as of late and just want something, a little bit of structure, you don't want to jump right in to maybe one of the programs on our app, but you just want, okay, give me week 0 to week 8 to kind of just get a foundation and start the year off right. I think this is the perfect way to do that. And it's not just the ebook, but it comes with some video content that you filmed with Tim Kennedy, who, if you ever need someone to talk to you and just like it's like watching a pre-workout. Like, you don't need to take pre-workout, you just need to watch this guy talk and get you amped up. And that's the motivation you need to like stay consistent for these 8 weeks. He'll do a better job than I'm doing now at selling you on why this is important, why you should commit to this. So definitely recommend, if this kind of feels like something that you've been looking for to kind of jumpstart the year, check it out. I'm sure we'll include the link in the bio. Love Tim Kennedy, love what he's about. And obviously him collaborating with Jason, the big guy, quality product that they put out. So I'm excited for that to get in as many hands as possible. Dude,
you know what we need to do? We need to call Tim and be like, bro, you need to come out with the Tim Kennedy pre-workout. But it's not even a pre-workout. It's not even like a supplement. It's just literally a YouTube video of him just like being him. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like him and Jocko have a lot in common in that realm. But I mean, Tim is even kind of bigger and bolder, and just like, especially when you're with him in person, he's got an electric personality for sure. So if you're looking to, I thought Gabe summarized it really well. I'm proud of the course. I think it was great. I think it's a great baseline, especially for people who kind of have maybe been off or maybe someone who's been developing their skills in jiu-jitsu and firearms, but maybe finds themselves not in the best shape ever. That's really who this is for, and the motivation really came for both of us from seeing people on the mats and on the range who physically had the skill set or mentally and physically had the skill set to perform a bunch of movements. But once they got tired, they could no longer perform it, so they couldn't do it under fatigue. And so some of this is just to help reduce fatigue and optimize performance under stress. It's one thing to do an arm bar to your drilling partner. It's another thing to be, 3 minutes into a really tough round and then try and perform that same thing. And if we could help you breathe better, that's the goal.
Yeah. Speaking of this idea of baseline fitness, one thing that I've been thinking a lot about, and I'm going to pull a Jason Khalipa here and make a early announcement, probably earlier than we should, to be honest, but I'm so excited about it that I want to tell everyone, which I assume is how you feel about everything. So yeah, I can relate now.
I don't know why you're giving away trade secrets so much, but let's hear it. I don't even know what it is.
So we're 100% now going to be launching nutrition and accountability coaching at our flagship locations in the Bay Area. It's something that I've been super passionate about for a long time, both personally, kind of in my own journey, but also, trying to incorporate it into how we impact the lives of the people at our gyms. And hopefully at some point, everyone across our app footprint, our collective footprint. And honestly, it's been a missing piece to what drives us to what we do every day, which is helping people reach their goals, helping them live freely and fully outside the gym. If you're coming to the gym and you're hitting our workouts consistently 3-5 times a week, amazing, right? Like, you're going to be making steps in the right direction. You're going to be feeling better. You're going to be looking better 100%. But if you're doing that and you're completely ignoring your nutrition, and also you don't have someone that's there holding you accountable to whatever you've set out to do, you're probably not going to be successful. And I know people out there have tried, just doing research on like the diet that they're going to try, especially now in the beginning of the year, right? Like, hey, I'm going to try keto. I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to add this. And, you'll have limited success. But at some point, you probably, and this has happened to me millions of times, revert back to old habits. And next thing you know, you took 3 steps forward, then you took 3 steps back, and right around mid-year, you're like back at like right where you started, and you're a little bit frustrated. And then you kind of like spin your wheels, go to the holiday season. And then again in January, you're back at square one. So I think that it's been a long time coming for us to support our members with nutrition and accountability. And I think that I'm super excited because combining those 2 aspects with fitness, which I already think, and I know you agree, we are the best in the world at, with the programming that we have, the world-class coaches that we have. I think now being able to offer the full picture for our members is bound to make what we do at NCFIT in the Bay Area really, really special, and hopefully set a really exciting example for a lot of gyms out there on what they can do if they really start incorporating like a holistic approach to how we're helping our members.
Yeah, it's really interesting with nutrition, because I mean, this is just a really good example of how, like, in business and in life, like, you evolve, you grow, and you change, and you should. Like, your vision, your perspective on something 10 years ago is probably going to be different than what it is today. And if it isn't, it probably should be in some way, shape, or form, because life happens, things happen, and you grow. And this is a really good example, because if you had asked me 10 years ago, well, shit, I was asked left and right, why aren't we offering nutrition? And I just would always say to myself, first off, it was never something that I was super passionate about. Like, I didn't feel that strongly about it. So I felt kind of unauthentic doing it. But the other was like, I was like, yeah, we're going to stay in this lane, this fitness lane. We're not going to really talk about this. But after more consideration, more thought, and more years go by, you realize that they're so combined. Like, they're not these individual tracks. And like, if you come into the gym and you don't dial in your nutrition at least a little bit better and stay accountable to that, at least a little bit, you're not going to see the same type of results as quickly as you want. So from a gym owner perspective, like, I want to get people results as quickly as possible so that they retain with us and they could really see those life-changing results for the rest of their life. And I think having this as an option is going to be really valuable for us at NCFIT. And I hope other gym owners, at least hear what we have to say. And it's not proven yet for us. Like, we got a few more months until it's proven. I'm confident it'll do well. But I think that gym owners should just be more open-minded to it, because I wasn't for a long time. But because of your passion behind it and the structure we have, and just realizing, like, it'll help retain our members, it'll help them get better results, it'll help them hit because most people want to look better, right? And if you're not at least doing something in the kitchen, you're missing out on that. So yeah, man, I'm fired up by it too. I mean, I can't believe you're releasing it early. I mean, dude, you always get mad at me for being reactive, but here's Mr. Reactive going out there and putting out on the table about nutrition, accountability coaching.
Yeah, you're rubbing up on me. Too much time spent with the big guy. But, I think that another thing that I've been thinking a lot about, because it's January and like you see it already, right? There's challenges and all sorts of diets out there. Like, people are talking about it. People are starting 75 hard, like doing all these things. And I was in the gym yesterday, and I was really thinking about, like, why, or how can I best explain why, for some people, and honestly for most people, like, these short-term approaches to, like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in 30 days, or I'm just going to cut out sugar for 30 days. Like, why these tend to be, not super productive and counterproductive, if anything. And I think that the way I thought about it, and kind of what I've had success with my own kind of nutrition and body composition over the past year, is this idea of, like, shifting your baseline and the fact that takes time. So let me try and explain this to you, because I was just thinking about this yesterday. But I think we all know that we have kind of like a baseline where we sit at, where it doesn't take a lot of work for us to stay looking and feeling the same. And for some people, for you, for example, like, you don't have to work particularly hard to look a certain way and feel a certain way, because you've done so much work over the years to make your baseline pretty lean, pretty fit, and pretty healthy, right? Like, you've done a lot of work. Like, right now, I would say you're not doing some crazy diet, feeling like you have to be super disciplined and avoiding all these foods. Like, you're probably eating what you want, making decisions here and there. You take group class. But for a lot of people, it takes a lot of work to do those things, right?
Yeah.
So I think that what people have to realize is, when you do these crazy 30 days of, like, I'm going to go to the gym every day, even though I wasn't working out a bunch. I'm going to cut out all sugar, even though I have a sweet tooth. I'm going to, make sure I'm doing, like, Whole30 only foods. You're not really shifting your baseline. All you're doing is going to an extreme of like being a lot more disciplined and a lot healthier than where your median is. And you can only do that for so long. Like if you think about it, like stretching a rubber band, you're in the middle, and the more you stretch it in one direction, the more it's eventually going to snap back. And if you stretch it to the point where it'll snap back and even go into the other direction, that's where a lot of people, they have a lot of success, they lose 20 pounds, whatever, and then they end up gaining 25 because they did something that was so unsustainable and took so much discipline, was so exhausting, was so stressful, that once they kind of like get to the point where they can't do it anymore, they yo-yo right back up and past that. So what I kind of encourage people to think about is thinking that like shifting that baseline, the point where the rubber band doesn't stretch at all, takes a lot of time. It takes months. It takes time to like build habits one at a time so that you can get to the point where looking a little bit better, feeling a little bit better, maybe being, a couple pant size smaller, whatever it is that your goal is, doesn't feel like something that it's hard to maintain. That should be the goal. The goal should be to get to a point where it's not just, okay, I just did this 30-day diet. I'm where I want to be now, but man, was that exhausting and I can't do this forever. It should get to the point where you feel and look the way you want to feel and look, but it feels effortless to maintain. And that's not going to happen in 30 days.
No.
Shit, that's not going to happen in 90 days. And I think that that's where the type of approach that we want to come with nutrition and accountability is going to be so helpful, because I know that we're not going to take this approach of, hey, I'm going to promise you the world in 30 days. What we're going to do is hold you accountable and work on habits one at a time in a way where it never feels difficult. And I think that that's the key. It can never feel hard, because as soon as it feels hard, it isn't sustainable. And that's why I'm so excited about the way we're approaching this. Not only am I excited because I think this is long overdue, but the way we're thinking about doing this, I think is going to lead to a lot of long-term success for people, which if you're a gym owner listening from a business standpoint, I think is going to help us with not just retention, but referrals, right? Like think about how much more likely people are going to be to scream from the rooftops that NCFIT is the best thing that's happened to them since forever if they see their goals like really happen before their eyes. So yeah, man, I think there's a lot of positives. I'm obviously super passionate about this stuff, and I'm excited to share what success for us looks like as we kind of get more and more into this.
Well, I think what success looks like for us is retention, is seeing these members get better, not perfect, but over weeks, months, and years. Like I really determine if we are successful when I'm in the gym. And as of lately, dude, it's cracking, right? Just the vibes are right. Classes are filled. It's awesome. But when you see members that have been with you 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, some even more years, it makes you feel like what we're doing is really life-changing, not just like a week changing, a month changing, but it's something that is now part of who they are. And that feels good. And I think for nutrition, it's that same impact, right? It's like, I don't think we should judge success by, how many members we have for 30, 45 days, whatever it is, for the challenge. We should judge success based on how many people stuck with us for 6 months or a year, where they were really able to define, like that rubber band analogy, I think is really cool. I might steal that at some point, because you're right. You have this rubber band, and if you just pull it just a little bit to the side, just like 2%, it really doesn't do much, because it's just like a little bit of the extra slack. But as soon as you pull it too far and you let it go, it's going to revert back to the other way. And you're totally right, because you can only have so much discipline for so long. And I've seen this time and time again. Take, for example, competing. I would be, disciplined all the time. But if I had a competition coming up in 2 months, I would ramp it up that 10% or whatever it is. But knowing that you have this goal, I remember every year after the CrossFit Games, it was really difficult, because I would train super hard for the games, be super diligent, knowing that I had this. And then my wife and I would always schedule a trip right after, like a week after, we'd go to somewhere, and I would just let the wheels off. But then all of a sudden they created this thing called Team USA, which actually I have the jersey right there behind me. The problem with that was the invitational was like a month after the games, or 2 months. So I couldn't really let myself go that much, because I had to go compete again in 2 months. But I guess I'm trying to use that as an analogy, where a lot of times for me, I would set these like pillars to train for. But I think when it comes to most people, most of the time, the pillars are much further out than they think, and they could just take small steps towards them. And before they know it, 6 months, a year later, it's going to be great. So I love that rubber band analogy. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's a really cool one for people to think about.
Yeah, man. And it's an important time now because I know a lot of people are probably stretching that rubber band pretty thin, really trying to uh, undo a lot of the damage from the holidays and probably not being as disciplined as possible. And I get it, like you get to the beginning of the year, new me. It's another thing that I think, and not to go off on a tangent, I don't like when people kind of bash the resolution crowd.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we do that or anyone we know do that, but there's definitely like some people that like, oh, the gyms are more crowded, or these people are just not going to stick to it. They're going to stick for a month. Like whatever it takes to get people moving again, great. And I think that a big reason a lot of people end up fizzling out is because they're not being embraced when they do end up coming in and making that change. Whereas they should, it's a big deal. And if January 1st is what it takes to get people moving, then I think that that's great. If you're listening and January 1st is what it took to like, dial your nutrition a little bit more or get moving a little bit more, it's like, fuck yeah. Like that's
Dude,
awesome.
that's what I'm saying. I was at the gym a couple days ago, and my normal schedule, I work out of our Campbell office. I would love to work out of our Mountain View gym, but we don't have a good office there. So our office at Campbell, I work there, and I'm typically there from like, let's just say like 8 to 4, more or less. During that time, I see a lot of different classes. I typically take the noon class. That's like kind of like typically when I like to work out because it kind of segments out my day. But a gentleman, he was at later on in the evening, and this gentleman, brand new member for us, he used to train CrossFit at another gym, came to us. He looked like he, had maybe, fallen off fitness for a little bit, right? And he was back. And like, dude, for me, I was fired up to see him. Like, dude, I was so grateful that regardless if it was the new year, new me, I don't care. The fact that you're in the gym, now our goal as coaches is how do we make your experience so beautiful and articulate our message so much that you stay with this for the next years to come. So if you are out there and the new year kind of fired you up, dude, that's great. If it didn't fire you up, then maybe get fired up in February. It's all good too.
That's it. Yeah. Any day
either
is
way,
good to start.
Either way, man. And I did a little cop with Khalipa about this. I got a message from a guy on Instagram, and he was like, "Hey, I used to be able to train 2 times a day, 45 minutes each or an hour each, but now I have kids, I have work, I have whatever, and I can only train like 15 minutes a day, but I don't even want to do it." And I was trying to explain to him, like, don't get obsessed with perfect getting in the way of like just good. And basically what he was trying to say is like, I only have 20 minutes, but I don't even feel like I should do anything because I can't do this full drawn out thing. And I'm like, dude, you could do 7 minutes of burpees. You could go in the garage. You can go to the gym real quick and open gym and hit it real quick. But at least something is better than nothing. And then when you have those longer days, like the weekends, get in there for those 2-3 hour sessions. But I think that consistency piece obviously matters. But I think there's a stigma that unless you can get in some full, like beautiful workout, you shouldn't do anything. It's like, that's not necessarily, in my opinion, the right way to think about it.
Yeah. And before we move on, just to tie a bow on the nutrition thing, because I don't want to get people all excited, especially because I know a lot of people at our commercial gyms listen to this podcast.
I'm excited.
Well, I don't want to get people all excited, not have them, something that they can actually do. So we'll definitely include in the show notes for this episode. We have a landing page already. So one of the things that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for us with launching this is we want to make sure that the coaches that are doing nutrition coaching are doing it right? Like it's taken us years and years and years to get to the point where our coaches are coaching group class at the level that like we feel is in line with the NCFIT brand. And we don't want to go out there and do this nutrition and accountability coaching anywhere short of that. So we've handpicked a very, very small group of coaches that have been with us for a while. They're familiar faces at the gyms that are going to be taking on clients in addition to a lot of their other responsibilities. So what that means is that spots are going to be super limited in the beginning. So I'm highly encouraging, if you're listening and you're a member at our Campbell or Mountain View location, or you've been a member in the past, because we'll have this open for past NCFIT members, please click on the link, put your name on the waiting list, make sure that you're first in line to get information on when this becomes available, because I'm almost 100% sure that we're not going to be able to take on every single client that wants to be a part of this, at least in the beginning, which is kind of a bummer. But again, it's necessary for us to kind of put out the product that we want to be proud of. So make sure you put your name down, don't wait. And you'll probably be hearing from me as soon as we have more details on this product. So just want to put a bow on that because I know a lot of people from our gyms actually listen to this and are probably fired up to get some more information.
Hey man, I'm fired up to get some more information too. This is definitely
Put
your
your name on the list.
yeah, I might need to, because this is definitely your brainchild. So I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, very successful for the business and successful for the individuals who are a part of it. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been playing a bigger part in the programming, which has been fun. We have a full team that's reviews it, but I've also been doing an additional review. I've been testing more workouts. I've just been training a lot more because I take classes and I test, and it's just been really fun because sometimes I'll see workouts. This is back in the day, and as an owner, I think gym owners can appreciate this. You'd see a workout that maybe wasn't perfect. It was good, but it wasn't. It maybe could have been better. It's kind of shame on you, right? Like if you had the opportunity to provide insight or provide feedback and you didn't do that, then that's not good. So that's something I've really taken to heart as of recently. And every workout we put out through the NCFIT workout, because now we only have one with performance and fitness tracks, I've tested a lot of them, and I just want to make sure that we feel really good about what we're putting out to the collective and within our gym. So just rest assured, if you're listening to this, if you're a gym owner, if you're a coach, if you're an athlete in our gyms, there's a lot of thought that goes into our programming. I've been taking a more active approach on testing, like I did yesterday with Caden, for example.
I think we should have a dedicated episode here in the pretty near future to like really dive deep into the change we made in the beginning of the year, how it's going. What I think would even be a good idea is maybe bringing like an Emily or a Frankie onto the podcast to get their take on, how everything's been going. Because they're doing, I know you coach some classes, but they're doing the majority of the coaching. But if you could give me like a 30-second like highlight of how it's been to go from half of our schedule be NCX, which is traditional strength and conditioning, moderate complexity, and NC Metcon, which is our take on GPP. So we had two different classes. Our schedules at the gyms were pretty much 50-50 to what's a pretty big change, right? Like now we only do the NCFIT workout, and every workout has two journeys, one that's moderate complexity, high complexity. What's your hot take, 11 days into the year when we record this, on how it's been going, how it's been received, and how the coaches are doing with it?
Sometimes as a business owner, or manager or whoever, there's like aha moments where you're like, dude, like really? Why didn't we do that before? Right. And I always have to remind myself, there's always reasons why we do certain things at the business, and not to like beat myself up, because I've been really hard on myself about a lot of decisions we've made over the years. But the thing that helps me sleep at night a little bit better is that at the time when you make those decisions, you make the best decision you can with the information you're given. And if you could do it over again, you'd probably make a similar decision. Like in general, in business, I would say that that's typically been the case for me. Is there's a lot of factors that build up how we got to wherever we're at in business decisions. Having Metcon and X was a byproduct of many years of decision making that led us to that. Moving it to one program with the performance and fitness track was a no-brainer. It is as much of a no-brainer to our business as having people pre-register for class or having 10-minute blocks in between. Like if you had asked me 5 years ago, oh, should we pre-register for class or have 10-minute blocks? I'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? Why would you have a 4:40 class? That's weird. Or I don't want people to register for classes because I want them to have a flexibility. Now, those things are just like so amazingly successful for us. I wish we had done them earlier. And that same thing applies with having one program. I mean, I cannot tell you the amount of people have come up to me and be like, dude, I'm super happy you have one program, because now I could go to any time I want in the day and not have to worry about the programming conflicting with each other. It's like, yeah, I wish we had done it earlier, to put it lightly.
Yeah. And I know that, at least from what I've heard too, from a lot of the collective gyms we work with, is that, this has facilitated a lot of, not issues that they had with prior, but a lot of things that they were trying to solve anyway. I think same thing, like having the class that you offer 100% of your schedule. I think that's been huge. I think, bringing everyone into a single class, being able to very clearly communicate what it is that we do, and not trying to explain this difference between X and Metcon, which, as we got feedback, X and Metcon went from being like pretty different to like being a little bit more similar. And I think that that's where things got a little gray and dicey for us. So yeah, man, from the collective side, gym owners that I talk to, I think it's been the same. I think it's pretty well received. So I'm excited we did it. And I'm excited that it's been, as positive as it has been.
Yeah. I mean, from a business perspective, just real quick, We're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Sure as hell not. But we all care. We care a lot. And we care about our business thriving in the future. We care about never settling for mediocrity. It's just some of these things just take time. And in hindsight, you're like, dude, why didn't we do that a year ago? But we weren't ready for that decision a year ago. We weren't ready to make that change. And that's just something I think just from a business perspective, it's important for any owner or manager to lean on is like, it's like, giving yourself a little bit of grace that like, be okay with making tough decisions, but like take your time with them because once you make them, like you make them like, and we're set. This is a decision we made. For example, like getting all of our members up to the same rate for their membership, dude, that ruffled some feathers for sure. But that decision took years to happen. It was a good thing for our business. Or this one, a lot of these decisions, they have implications, good and bad. And you have to make sure as an owner that you're okay with standing up for your decision making. And in this case, it took me personally this long to get there. We knew it was the right idea maybe like 6 months or a year ago. It just took a long time to get there.
Yeah. And sometimes, again, like not rushing into the decision gives you not just the clarity on making sure that like this was the right decision, because I think the writing was on the wall for us for a little bit, but also like the confidence to go out there, which I think is a necessary ingredient to it being successful in the first place, right? Like if you're feeling 70% about it, like sure, that's enough to maybe make the decision, but will that come off as 70% when you communicate it to your staff, when you communicate it to the members, when you go out there? And will that then have a negative impact on how it's received and the pushback that you get? Whereas if you can go, and I am 100% confident in this decision, and that comes out with your body language, with the language that you use, and so on and so forth, then anyone that maybe would have had some pushback would have been like, well, if he thinks this is that good of an idea, it must be that good of an idea.
Yeah. And I think for a while, again, just using myself as an example, I try and do that as much as possible because I think that there's learning lessons here. Years ago, it's probably Gabe, I think you were with the company. So it must have been like 5 years ago. We had a meeting in Santa Cruz. We did a cold plunge. You did that one where we went in the water and we got out?
Yeah, and that was in the early days of me being on the team. I got to tell you, man, just without completely detracting from your story, that like sealed the deal for me. I like bled NCFIT after that day. It was really well done. I was so pumped with the people we went, what we did, the talk we had after with Adam. That was really well done because I had to have been, because what time of the year? We did that like end of the year.
And
I
had
started in August.
All I know is it was cold and we went in the ocean. And then afterwards we were freezing our asses off in a meeting, but it was good.
Yeah, I was like 3 months into the company and I left that and I was like, this is where I should be. This is good.
Yeah, so dude, we went out there, and the reason why I bring this meeting up, and maybe on another podcast we could talk about that meeting and the goals of it, but one of the things we came to the conclusion of was this tagline, and it was all heart, all hustle. And I remember when I was in the meeting, like vibes were right, like dude, people were fired up, dude, like everybody was good, and the team kind of decided that they liked all heart, all hustle. I didn't really say much. I was kind of like impartial, but I didn't really like get on board with it that much. And turns out, it took a few weeks, months, and it kind of fell flat in the gyms because of me. It was my fault. It was my fault because I was not 100% behind it. And I think it's just taken me this long to get to a point where, like, if I don't feel right about it, I just want to voice that early so that we could then not go that direction. Because eventually as the organization and someone who's like the microphone for it, like I have to be all in. Otherwise, it'll just fall flat. It's something I've had to realize. And I think that this is an example, like changing 2 programs to 1. If I wasn't all in, it wouldn't have, at least to me, the team wouldn't have been as excited about it, right? And so that's something that each owner needs to think about is like, are you all in on your decision? If not, just take your time with it, because all heart, all hustle, we like kind of like pounded. We were all fired up about it, but I wasn't really, and it fell flat. And I lost trust in the team because of that. And that was my fault. That was a big learning experience for me that I won't let happen again.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this, like when it comes to hiring, for example, like I think one of the things you really need to rely on as a leader is that gut feeling. And like, if something doesn't feel 100%, I use this cheesy analogy all the time, but it's like trying something on in the fitting room. Like those mirrors are designed to be super flattering. If you don't love it in the fitting room, you're not going to love it in real life. And not that I go out shopping all the time, I'm checking myself out in a fitting room, but it's a good analogy because it's true. Like when it comes to a hiring decision, when it comes to a big decision like this, if you're not in the moment, like if there's any little bit of doubt, any little bit of like, is that the right person? Is this the right way to go? But like everyone else seems kind of on board, like chances are like whatever that 5% of doubt is only going to grow. So it's important that you're 100%, especially on these big decisions. And I think it applies really well to hiring.
Oh yeah, for sure. Did you see that one Shark Tank where, so I cannot remember the last time I was in a dressing room. Way before COVID. I mean, I don't know. I mean, dude, I basically wear, anyways. But did you see that one Shark Tank where the lady was trying to sell mirrors that make you look thinner in the clothes?
No.
Oh,
no.
So she had already had them. So they were called like slim mirrors or something like that. And the sharks didn't invest it because they felt like it was kind of like not unethical, but like misinformation. Like people were going to try these clothes on, look super thin in them, go home and not have a great experience. Anyways, I just thought that was random that it was on Shark Tank, one of my favorite shows.
Oh, dude, Shark Tank is a must watch. We've been binge watching. So we didn't watch a lot of it like as the seasons went out, but it's been one of our shows that we like watch every night as our show. And it's so good, man. You also learn a lot. It's very, very, very educational. Like the little sound bits that you get from like Mark Cuban, especially, dude, he drops some major knowledge bombs on people that if you're really paying attention to what they're saying, I picked up a lot from watching the show. And it's also just great TV.
Yeah, I personally think that and there's been credit where credit's due, but like from an entrepreneurship perspective in the United States, I think it's been incredible. Like my kids have been watching it since they were super young because there's not a ton of like foul language, there's no, like, it's a good family show. Right. And, anyways, we could talk about that for hours, but yeah, Shark Tank, shout out to Shark Tank. If you're not watching it, give it a shot. And, yeah, I got to go download something because I'm going to be on a lot of flights. I'm in and out from Miami. So I'll be, I got to go find some shows to binge or maybe some podcasts. So we'll see.
Well, since power outages are something that's happening, it reminded me another show that we haven't finished it yet, but we're watching. We don't watch it like every night because it's a little heavy. But if you're into that kind of stuff, I like things that are based on true stories, even when they're like a little bit heavy, just because I think it's important to like, really see that, this kind of shit goes down. But 5 Days at Memorial is on Apple TV. And it's about 5 days at this hospital in New Orleans immediately following Katrina and how crazy the experience was when they were out of power, the levees broke, and they were like stranded. It was a hospital with a shit ton of patients and like the decisions they had to make about like, who gets evacuated, who not, and, people under that type of pressure. It's a good show. It's on Apple TV. I recommend it if you're into that kind of stuff. And it's based on a true story, which, is always, I always find fascinating, but it is a little heavy.
Yeah. I like the true stories. Well, I love it, man. We'll make sure to put in the show notes about the nutrition that's coming up.
Hell yeah.
If you're a gym owner, you're not doing our bi-weekly newsletter, you're seriously missing out. Gabe does an amazing job with that. If you're an athlete or just anybody who listens to this show and you're not part of our EOE Weekly, a weekly newsletter that goes out every week, they're doing an amazing job with that. And yeah, I mean, look, if you're listening to this show, we really appreciate it. If you see me at any event, anywhere, hit us up. Would really appreciate just letting us know what you guys think. And aside from that, man, I hope everybody has a great week. What do you think, Gabe? That's it?
That's right, man. You got all my plugs. You hit them all on the nail on the head. No, I'm excited to record next week and hear how it went in Miami.
All right. It's going to go great. Talk to you guys soon.